This is Social Leopards. I'm Bea.
And I'm Beth. A leopard is a solitary creature living in the jungle, but often not seen or noticed. Are you a solitary creature trying to navigate the social jungle?
This show explores loneliness and the many ways forward. Welcome to Social Leopards.
Hello and welcome back, everybody. Today we are speaking with Crystal Dossman. She is a practitioner specializing in biodynamic craniosacral therapy and energy healing techniques. She overcame some deeply personal challenges in her life, and we'll let Crystal share some of that story momentarily. And her professional practice focuses on helping individuals release tension, heal emotional trauma, and achieve balance and well-being. Welcome to the show, Crystal.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
So, to start us off, could you share what led you to become both a craniosacral therapist and an energy healer?
Oh, wow. I would say it was a lot of trial and error. I was a master at suppressing everything, any emotions. And when you suppress bad emotions, or negative things that impact you, hurt, everything goes with it. The joy, the fun, the excitement. You know that they're there. You think of it cognitively, but you don't really feel it. So during my childhood, I experienced a lot of emotional and verbal abuse from my stepfather and a little bit from my mother, but mostly my stepfather. And I think just the abandonment from her for allowing it to happen and standing by and that kind of thing. And then as I grew up, I found myself in other abusive relationships that I didn't recognize as abusive at the time because it was a different type of abuse.
Yes.
And then I started hallucinating. I was still going through my daily life. I graduated from college. I managed really successful, very expensive restaurants around the country. And I was going through my day-to-day life, but I was constantly hallucinating. So every conversation I was having was with this filter of a story or a movie playing in front of my head. So all conversations were in the background and really hard to focus on. It wasn't until I had my baby 8 years ago that I was diagnosed with a brain tumor. I had my newborn. I was home alone, raising her by myself, and they put me on bed rest, and I realized I'd slept for 2 weeks. And that is really scary when you have a newborn. She was cared for, she was nursed. I was doing all the things. I just didn't remember doing any of them. So I packed up and I went to the emergency room, and I had a really amazing doctor that took me straight in to have a CAT scan. And I had a tumor almost the size of my fist in my left frontal lobe, and had pushed my brain back to the back hemisphere and then over to the side. Most of my vocal skills were completely diminished. And they said that if I didn't get surgery, I would have 2 months to live, maybe.
Oh, my God.
So
I can't even imagine with a small child.
Exactly.
And being a single mom at the time, which is a whole other story of its own.
That's a lot.
We can get to it today.
the thing is, and I think the thing that surprises most people is that when I got that diagnosis, I don't know that I've ever felt so much relief and joy.
Really?
Because you knew.
Yeah, because I wasn't crazy. I knew there was something wrong, that all of those doctors over all those years had said it was in my head, but that they basically told me that I was making it up. It was like, I don't know. I knew what it was, and now it can be fixed. It's hard to fix a problem when you don't know the cause.
Yes, yes.
And even admitting it is horrible because I just had my baby, but I did not feel the euphoric feeling because of all of the other things that I did when I was like, oh my gosh, I can just be now.
So how incredibly isolating that must have felt to be faced with something that people were telling you was not real. And how did you navigate that up to the point of that diagnosis?
2 things. One is I didn't tell anybody I was hallucinating. I was so afraid so afraid.
Of being judged or?
Yeah. I mean, my mom was diagnosed with high levels of depression. I don't know that they ever specified what type, but manic, probably. And so she had gone into some homes to help psychiatric wards and drugs. So I was really afraid of drugs. I was really afraid of going into a home to not being able to live my life or complete I don't know. It was so scary what could happen if I said anything. And I didn't have a safe space or a person that I felt like I could talk to at the time. And then in hindsight, people just thought I was crazy. Like they said that they couldn't even understand what I was talking about. And so there was no communication that I was acting different and also the reasons why. The other thing is the doctors just didn't really listen. They said, oh, you're tired. Your hormones must be acting up, or you don't get enough vitamin B. So that's why you can't get out of bed every day. So all of these things, because all of my panels came out clear, they didn't have a test to tell them what was wrong. And nobody looked further than blood samples. And I wasn't an advocate for myself. I didn't have that skill at the time. I didn't know I needed that skill. Doctors are supposed to take care of you. They're supposed to know what's going on. And I just had trust in that because I didn't know any different.
Yeah.
I also moved a lot because of my job. So I was constantly in groups of new people who didn't know my base behaviors. So they didn't have something to tell me, wow, this is really out of character for you. And somehow my mind is engineered to where it can show up when it needs to. So if I'm around my family or if for some reason I felt like I really had to shield this, that I had to protect it or hold it away from everybody else. And a lot of times they couldn't even really tell that there was a difference, maybe that it was just a little sleepy or something. So it was just about 30 years of pretending.
Wow. Makes you wonder how long that brain tumor was there.
They said about 15 to 20 years.
Wow. And it started to grow and then finally started to press against the other brain structures, and they finally found it.
Yeah. They said that the hormones from being pregnant fed the tumor. And so it was growing at a steady rate and getting bigger to affect my hallucination, cognitive, and all those things, but my vocal skills, my balance. But when I became pregnant, I just had so much more to feed it.
Yes. And you were also undergoing a lot of knowing part of your story. Sorry, I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but you were also undergoing some other personal stress relationship-wise. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you ended up into single motherhood quite unexpectedly?
Yeah. Well, I was married for 13 years and I didn't know that I was being abused during those 13 years, probably mostly because I was focused on not letting out that I was hallucinating half the time. And we were happy, or at least I thought that we were. And then I got pregnant and we were happy about being pregnant. And then I had the baby and he was traveling all the time for work. And less than a year after our daughter was born, he was arrested and had been living a completely different life that I did not know. And probably because I was very internally focused. And also he was traveling a lot for work. So it's a lot easier when you're not around the people that see you all the time. And so he's been in prison since she was 1 year old. And all of a sudden I was not working because I was recovering from surgery. And in the end, 3 surgeries and a baby. And I did not have a household income. And I lived in North Carolina, which is a beautiful state in so many ways, but not supportive at all in any kind of financial support or health, nothing. It was the hospital, the medical system there was amazing. But once they had done everything that they could do, there was no further support. So I was grateful for my neighbors and grateful for the people around me, but super isolated and not really knowing anybody.
Yeah.
To help with that. And And having to be.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes I think we have more strength, sometimes inadvertently, when we're in these stressful situations than we realize. And I also was 6 months pregnant when I got divorced, when I had this baby and I had to take care of her. And I'll tell you, I kind of dug so deep inside myself to get through that because I knew I had to support this child. And I wonder if that's not some of what happened to you as well.
Definitely. It was this willpower was there and the strength was there. And I had always prided myself on being stoic and strong and being the foundation when there was an emergency. And it wasn't until recently I said, maybe I shouldn't have had so many emergencies. Maybe I shouldn't have had to have that so many times. But I'm grateful for the way that everything played out. Because without the tumor, I wouldn't have been a stay-at-home mom. I wouldn't have been at home. And I wouldn't have had that support. There just is so many things that lined up to make it where my daughter was able to get the best of me that she could.
That's a great
Wonderful.
way to reframe and
Yes.
find strength in a really difficult situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, there would have been it would have been a lot worse if my husband had stayed with her and I was the one working. And yeah, there's just, even though it's hard and even though I talk about it and there's some what ifs that go with it, I am grateful. Like I feel like the tumor saved me, saved my daughter, and my daughter saved me because I wouldn't have gone to the hospital.
Yeah.
Without her.
So was there a pivotal moment in your journey when you felt a shift on your own health, in your own health and emotional status that caused you to move forward?
Yeah, it's always, it's clear. And it comes to me anytime that I'm feeling frustrated or just not wanting to try so hard. And I was having a panic attack, and not a panic attack like my heart is racing, and not to belittle, just it was not a standard panic attack that you're like, I'm fluttery, I'm jittery, I need to breathe into a bag. I was on the ground, rocking, chanting to myself. And it's things like, I can't do this, and it's just rocking and completely in your hold in, knees tight, cold floor moments, and crying, and no thought that's makes any sense. It's all just like, I I can't go on. And my daughter was just walking at this time, and she came up behind me and put this little teeny hand right here on my shoulder
Mm.
and just stood there. There was no hugs, there was no crying, there was no talking. She just held me. And there was at this moment that I'm like, I don't want this life for my daughter. This is not what she needs or deserves. And that day, I changed my diet. The things I could change, I changed that day. And then I began my extensive search on doctors and medications, and then eventually into the holistic energy handheld types of healing. But it was definitely a journey, and that moment shook me out of it, that there was more than what I was feeling at the moment.
Yeah. One of the things that I know about you is that you do energy healing, and you were gracious enough to let me experience an initial session with you, which we'll talk about in just a little bit here. But what led you to this particular form of, I don't even know what to call it. It was of this healing therapy. I'll let you explain it, and we'll get into some of this because it was really, I'm going to tell you, I was a little skeptical, but I had a pretty amazing result. So tell us a little bit about it.
I would say same. I went into it very skeptical. I went into everything skeptical at that point because my trust was gone. Anybody could tell you anything. I would say accessibility brought me to the emotion code. I tried a lot of things, and it gets pretty expensive when it's $100+ a session most times with most people remote. When you're working over the phone or even emails, it just seems like what could really happen and how can you really help me are questions. It's like you could be making, I don't know. There's just a lot of things going through your head about how is this even possibly going to work? And so I picked up this book and I started to read the emotion code and I set it down and I did that 3 or 4 times. And then finally, I'm like, this book keeps popping up into my life and I am just going to read it because the worst thing that happens is I have knowledge I don't use. And I got halfway through the book, which is when they start talking about how to practice and how to do the muscle testing and just how to practice doing it on yourself. And I did it on myself. And I did it on myself over and over again. And I would say after the first week of just releasing emotions that I had, which are energetic frequencies. So basically releasing energy that I had stored in my body in places that were not helpful to my body, I started to think clearly. I didn't have the brain fog that came with recovering from surgery and being diagnosed with fibromyalgia and just being a single parent really can do that. And so once I started thinking clearly, I was better able to take care of myself. I was better able to walk because from my surgery, I was having a hard time walking without a cane or a walker. And it would be sporadic. Some days I would be totally fine, and some days I would be crawling on the floor. And so having my jaw, I didn't even know that I had a jaw issue. I thought it was my dentist. I thought that my filling was off. And so I would just chew on it. And I did it. And it was my first session, first try, it was gone. And I can tell when I get stressed out, I still start to go back into old patterns of chewing on my jaw or on my tooth, but the chronic is gone. And so, okay, this works. And now I'm going to become certified. And it just snowballed from there. And then I could reach out and I can help other people because more people need to know that there are these tools that are so accessible that you could do it on yourself and have somebody else do it on you. I suggest both because we all will reach different areas and connect with different parts of our trapped emotions that need to be released, and it escalated from there. And just briefly, not long after that, I found biodynamic craniosacral therapy. I could not pronounce it. I had no idea what it was, but I know that the cranial is your cranium. And so I had issues with my head, and my sacrum was where my nerves for my legs. I had issues there. So probably this would be worth a try for me. And after about 10 sessions, I stopped using my cane. So between the motion code and the craniosacral therapy, I have been walking without assistance for almost 3 years.
That's amazing.
That is amazing. Yes.
Wow.
And craniosacral, that's like basically your whole spine.
Yeah. It's the beginning and end of your nervous system. And just really almost all the information in our body travels through there. It's where all of our nerves go. It's our movement. It's our flexibility. And I think that really why they named it that is head to toe. It's full body. It's all your organs, all your fluids, all your nervous system, your spinal, your skeletal, your muscle. So at some point we interact with it all, which is really what your body needs in some of these, especially these repressed traumatic experiences or large body injuries. And I think that our medical system does an amazing job with fixing things, but sometimes the aftermath and the care and even surgery can hold some scary, traumatic feelings because our subconscious is still activated. It's pretty amazing how much this work impacts and that it's not just an energy, it's really your body.
From your perspective, how do emotional trauma and physical tension contribute to feelings of loneliness, isolation, social anxiety?
We are, for the most part, raised to be strong and stoic and be the force or the solid in case in any adversity. And so it is really hard to share some of these experiences in a truthful way. When I share that I was more excited to find out I had a brain tumor than to have a baby, reactions aren't very positive. They're not very supportive. That it's like, how could you even say that? But it's an honesty. And it's not because I don't love or it wasn't so amazed to meet her. It's just that's how my body responded because of the trauma that I was experiencing in my life at the moment, and sharing those honestly and saying that I'm grateful to have had all of this to overcome because of how close I am with my daughter now. It's a great afterthought. Like it's a great story and it has a great ending, but all those truths and those little segments in between are really hard to share. And when you can't share you or your true feelings or your true experiences, it automatically creates a sense of isolation and loneliness. Even though there are so many people who have had and similar thoughts, similar ideas, similar emotions, it's doesn't feel okay to say or okay to support.
Or do you also think people get so scared of the emotion that it's going to create and they just want to, like what you're talking about, they just want to continue to deny that feeling because it's so overwhelming and so painful? Because I've had friends with whom theoretically we should have a lot in common. We're from the same background, maybe the same city, but for some reason I struggle to connect with them. And I think part of it is because maybe I've processed some of these things from my past that they haven't. So would you
Yeah,
agree with that?
there's definitely that. Also, when you have that suppressed, and all of us do, this is not, emotions aren't negative. We're meant to feel them. But when you have all of the suppressed emotions and energy it's harder to connect. It's like a shield. And so it's easy to see or to judge, and judge not as a judgmental, but to analyze it in your body. It is really easy to do that. It's easy to look at their situation and say, hey, I've gone through this. It's even easy to share your experiences, but it's sometimes hard to sit with them in their experience. And what I mean by that is not by sharing your experience with them, but by sharing their experience. Because you've already felt that. You don't want to. You don't want to go through that again. Why would you? Why do you want to put yourself in a situation where you're feeling all of those hard feelings again
Right.
when you're in the mode of celebrating some of them that you've overcome? And that's a really maybe harsh way to put it, but it can be really isolating because we have a sense of protection and survival, and we don't want to do the things that feel harmful, even if they are helpful. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, thank you.
I think that's a good segue into my next question. Could you explain how energy healing methods like the emotion code address the underlying causes of emotional disconnection, for lack of a better word?
Yeah. So it's with a lot of the energy healing, emotion code, I like to joke around that it's the energy healing for people who like spreadsheets, that like the logical and like to have a name to things. But they work on the same tune, is that you're working with your body's frequencies. Everything has a frequency. Your liver has a slightly different rhythm and tone than your kidneys do. They still work together, but they're not on the same frequency, but they're still able to communicate. And so when you suppress an emotion, it is also on a frequency. It's an energy. And it doesn't create. We don't create energy. We just change energy. It just converts into something else. And so when you have this feeling that you're uncomfortable with, say that you are driving down the road and you almost hit a deer. In that brief moment, you can have hundreds of feelings, but terror sticks out and your heart is racing and you're feeling agitated and it's harder to focus on driving, but you suck it up because you have to get to work on time. And you don't have time to deal with it. So you don't sit, you don't let your body shake, you don't let your body go through the motions that feeling would generally give you, like that agitation, the racing heart, because you suck it in. It wasn't a big deal. Everything is over. And now we're going on with our lives. But that doesn't go away. It just gets tucked in, say, to your shoulder. And then after a couple of years of similar experiences where this one frequency is, oh, I know where I go. I go right here. I go to my shoulder, and it builds up. And then there's a block. And that block means that your shoulder is no longer operating on optimal. It has less blood flow, or the nerves are not communicating correctly. And there's a tension in the muscle so that there's a sharp pain when you move it. And those start to cause different pains and aches in your body, because just because this hurts, it's all connected into your hip. And so maybe then you're starting to walk with a funny gait because your hip's so pulled up because your muscle's tight on your shoulder. And so I guess releasing these frequencies gives your body the space and the energy that it needs to correct itself, to heal itself. We are meant to heal ourselves. There are some things that it is amazing to have medical treatment for, and some things that our body normally regulates.
Yeah.
And that's where the energy work comes in. It's not a replacement, it's a support system.
So the session that I had with you, to talk about that for just a couple minutes, we had talked about how and I don't think it's any surprise to anybody, it's a long-time listener, but I had a very difficult grieving process after my father died, and I had a lot of jaw pain, and some of that still feels residual. I'm pretty sure I clench my teeth at night and all of those things, and I didn't expect any kind of, I don't want to use the word miracle lightly here, but I had the session with you, and basically we just talked, and you warned me that you were going to say some things that were going to sound like gibberish, and they did. You were just throwing out words and numbers, and I was just like receiving on the other end of the line. And it amazed me that we could do this even just by phone, and it was still going to be something that would be helpful to me. And I wasn't sure that it was. I'm just going to be honest here. But I did notice that even during the session, at the beginning of the session, I could feel my jaw and the tension and the tightness in it. And by the end of the session, that had been relieved. And that was a really weird feeling, because it's something that's normal for me to feel a little bit of tension. And that tension was gone. And I did not have any lucid dreams like you warned me that I might have, because I very rarely remember my dreams. I sometimes, if I'm halfway in a waking, halfway in a sleeping state, it's just rare for me. So I was upset that I didn't have any lucid dreams. But what I did notice was that jaw pain remained at bay. And the other interesting thing is I easily get triggered usually about memories of my dad or things that happen in day-to-day life that it will remind me of him. And then that brings back some of that anger/sadness. And I didn't feel any of that. Somebody used a random word that I know my dad used to use. He was very his vocabulary was, he had a lot of unique words.
Rich.
Let's just say that. And like we call them $50 words or whatever when that was a big word you used there just now. And one of them came up and it immediately reminded me of my father, but there was only happy memories associated with that. And it made me smile and all the rest of it, I didn't even, to this day, I haven't had a negative emotion related to my dad. And I never thought I'd get there, because I've been so angry for so long about everything that went down and I know it was suppressed, but I don't know, whatever gibberish, it worked, man. And
it's amazing.
I feel very relieved and at peace and calm about that whole segment of my life.
You just made me think of something. So with regard to emotions, I think certain ones carry a higher energy vibration than others or impact us more. Would you say that anger is one of those emotions?
I actually think it changes for each person. I think that we respond to anger more, and we know how to act when we're feeling angry more, so it's more apparent. And also we recognize it more because it's one of our base emotions, one that you have basically when you're born. And then there's subtleties that break off. But really it's the vibrations that you're able to release and the ones that you hold on to. So anger is definitely one of them. And also it's a very common response when a person doesn't know how to respond to something.
Mm-hmm.
Fear, a lot of people respond in anger. Uncertainty, unknowing, feeling insecurity, unacknowledged. There's so many things that end up being turned into anger because we don't know how to express them in any other way. And so I don't know that I would say that anger has a higher frequency. I just think that it is more common.
More common. Okay. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I would also venture to say, in my experience, that anger hasn't been one that I've had to release a lot of. It's not one of the main trapped emotions. There are some people who really suppress anger, but in the majority of the people that I've worked with, anger is not one of their highest. I would say that effort unreceived, abandoned, unacknowledged, things that we can feel powerless against. Anger gives us power.
Oh, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny because I don't think you used the word anger in our conversation. And you also told me not to spend too much time trying to overanalyze what had happened. So I didn't commit a lot of what happened to memory like my logical brain would want to. But now that I reflect back, I don't think anger really came up. I think that's just how I perceive it. And probably because it had been so unresolved for so long. And maybe that was the easy label to put on it. I don't know.
It's also an action. It's something that we can respond with. It propels us. Like, how many times have you not wanted to do something, or I mean, maybe initiated or instigated into something because you felt angry? You can,
Yeah.
It's almost the same as adrenaline, where
No, that makes sense.
pushes you into extremes where you couldn't go before.
No, very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
This whole emotion code thing has just really stuck with me, and I could just keep thinking about it. And I hope some people look into it, either buy the book or reach out to you, because I'm just amazed that it did make a tangible change in one session. Usually when people have issues, you talk about talk therapy, right?
Yeah.
And talk therapy has its place in this world. And there are a lot of things that do take some time to fully realize and process and heal from. But just this not having it in your system because it is no longer necessary. You said some very calming, reassuring words at the end of the session about letting things go and you don't need these things anymore. And that's about all I remember. But because I tried to take it literally, don't over-reflect, just let it be and let your inner side. And what's the name of your Instagram page? Because I think that's very reflective of what this is all about. It's healing
inside out.
Healing inside out. And I think that's what has resonated with me, is that's exactly what it is. It's a really great Instagram handle because
that's what happened to you. Got healing inside out.
Yeah. Yeah. And things that I didn't know I was still holding on to or whatever, or there was energy inside me that just wasn't helpful. I think that's how you explained it earlier, that I no longer need. And somehow, magically, my body released it, and it was amazing. Yes. Yeah. And I still feel that relief.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Weeks later, because that was several weeks ago that this session occurred, and I'm still feeling the benefits.
And how long,
No.
How long did the benefits last after the first session, do you think?
I would say that it has a lot to do with you. Here, the reason why I say don't overanalyze or stress on things is that at the time that we have the emotion's necessary. There's no such thing as a bad emotion. It's just how we process it. And I just wanted to get that out there, or not, or don't process. And then, so we have all of this built up, and just say, over the years, you have felt a lot of fear over, I don't know, maybe you're afraid of spiders. And you just have this fear, but you don't show it, you don't tell anybody, and you just tuck it away, and then you get over it. And you move on because it's really not that bad, even though it is horrifying to you. And then we release all of these emotions associated with this feeling or this fear or this anxiety that you have. And then you're not charged. You don't have this huge buildup. It's like a desk. One paper is okay. 5 papers, it gets really cluttery. And then all of a sudden you can't move because you have this full desk of papers. And then every time you try to look for something, it is a huge task and a job, and it's just overwhelming, and you're so anxious and you can't handle it. And then you clear it all off and you have this nice fresh slate. And then that spider isn't so scary anymore because you don't have all of that other stuff. So finding that one piece of paper or doing that one task isn't that big of a deal anymore because all of that other stuff is gone. All of these things that we're hanging on to that we don't need. And if you choose to go through and look at all of the emotions that you release and try to associate them with different experiences and track them and see exactly what's affecting what, then you're going to put so much energy in all of the stuff that you've let go that it's going to come back in a different way. It may not be those exact emotions because they're already gone, but you're going to create some more to replace them.
Mm.
And then you won't be feeling the benefits anymore.
Okay, that makes sense.
Which is why I say, not that you
Okay.
can know more about yourself. This isn't the space.
So, are there some small, simple practices that people could incorporate into their daily life to feel more connected to themselves or others?
Yeah, I think that one of my very, very favorite things is I learned from an amazing Qigong teacher, but you don't have to do it exactly right, and you don't even have to know what you're doing. But when you're feeling really anxious or just tightly wound, maybe you don't know what's going on or why, but you just feel an edge, you can just bring your arms and just take a deep breath and then breathe out slowly as you're pushing your hand down. And it's just basically tonifying, like just bringing your energy down. And not down as in I'm ready to go to sleep down, but down as in not up in my head and my chest down. Bringing it back to the earth.
Good one. Yeah.
I get teased all the time at work, and I'm like, I start to get anxious or anxiety. Not really anxiety, but just something triggered me in a way. And I'm starting to clench up, and then they just see me like walking around just going, it's fine. You do it anywhere. Another one that's really subtle that's helpful, and it's a part of a whole tapping experience. And if you haven't experienced tapping, it's easy to do on your own and it's amazing. But is right here on your just tapping here. And doing it 30 seconds, 60 seconds, don't make it hurt, but just do it.
And what does that accomplish?
This right here helps just bring your energy, helps your energy move back through your lymphatic system. And it's only one point in the whole series of it, but just when you need a little something, a little pick me up, a little, I don't need to be stressed like this, and calming, but still energetic, this is really good. It just starts sending electric or energetic charges in your body, and I can feel myself being refreshed. There's other ones like right here. You'll find yourself holding right here sometimes when you're tense. And there's a little lymph node right here that's just like a little pressure point. It's a really good one to rub. And you'll notice if you rub around your bra line where you're tender, sometimes under your arms if you have a really tender spot. Those are really good places just to massage and rub and give a little bit of attention to, because that just means that there's something stuck. There's a clog. That energy isn't moving through there really softly and smoothly.
Yeah.
So those are 2 things. I also would just say, let yourself enjoy some little things. When you see that flower that's amazing, it's okay to stop your other thoughts and go, wow, that's a really amazing flower. Just really let yourself feel it. Let yourself feel your emotions. Let yourself shake if you need to shake.
Tiny moments of happiness.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many we have and don't acknowledge.
Or discounting. It's not worth your time and energy.
Yeah.
Whereas we've had so many conversations about so many things. It's hard to even keep them all straight.
Exactly.
But just even random acts of kindness, just smiling at somebody in the grocery store, getting the smile back. It really is subconsciously a very healthy and rewarding experience to just share a moment with another human.
Yeah.
Compliments. Little compliments.
Yeah.
I watch kids. Kids are our best teachers in this. They're so amazing. I watch my daughter. We're just walking down the street and she just randomly goes, "Wow, that's the best jacket." To I don't know. The lady was my age. I don't know. And I was just going about my business. We are talking about school. It was just normal. And then she just stops and just loves it. And you could see the wonder in her eyes. And that lady, we saw her around throughout the day. And she was glowing.
Oh,
And it was
Yeah.
just so cute. And so I think that maybe taking those moments, letting our little ones be our teachers in the present. And everybody says, be mindful. And I'm not, okay, sorry, that sounds really joking because it's not a joke, but living in the present or being in the now is great things to say and hard to do. And it's, wow, thank you for those words of wisdom, but that doesn't help me right now.
Yeah.
But those moments of compliments, those moments of kindness, those moments of letting yourself feel the feelings, sometimes even feeling, my little brother passed away. He committed suicide 5 years ago. And
I'm sorry.
thank you. And through the healing, the process, I've come to this point where it's almost a relief. And again, saying that is not something that everybody will say is okay, but I feel that he is better and softer and just not in pain. But the point of that is sometimes sitting in those moments where I'm missing him or I'm sad or even angry. Some of those are actually, it feels good to sit with those feelings, even though the feelings are so painful, if that make any sense.
yeah.
And acknowledging them and knowing that they're there and knowing that they're serving their purpose and that they're because of somebody that we really cherished or something that we really loved or something that was meaningful to us. And so they represent something greater than the pain that we're experiencing in them. So even experiencing our moments of pain can be beautiful in the moment.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I am so inspired by all that you have lived through
Yes.
and overcome and finding moments of joy and peace and understanding in some very difficult emotions. It's just super inspiring.
Yep.
Yeah. Are there any final moments that you would like to share with us or our listening audience before we wrap up today?
I would just say that keeping an open mind, everybody has their own healing journey and not every practice is for everybody, but new ways of healing and even if you don't feel like you've overcome any trauma or you have anything suppressed, I could promise you everybody has suppressed emotions. We do it from a young age and we can't help it. And so finding ways to really connect with yourself, to release these emotions, to make sure that you're letting your body process and in healthy and in meaningful ways is really what I hope for everybody and what I would like everybody to get out of this talk today.
Yes, absolutely. And if someone were to reach out for you because you do have some remote sessions available, how would they best find you?
You've mentioned Instagram on Healing Inside Out is a really great way. I also have my website. It is my full name, crystaldossman.com. And you can book sessions. You can read more about me. You can read more about what types of sessions that I offer. And also there's free consultation. So if you just want to talk, see if it's right, see if you enjoy talking with me, really finding somebody to work with that you enjoy being around is important. I think that is almost more important than the skills or how long they've practiced because when you have a connection, everything's a little bit more powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
which is what you're about is that finding those moments where we have relief from being alone and finding that support where you need it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for your time, your words of wisdom, your strategies. Just talking to you is so relaxing also. So really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. With that, I think this wraps this episode of Social Leopards. Again, thank you for being here, and we will see you next week, everybody.
Yeah, have a great week. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Hey, Social Leopards. Don't slink back into the jungle quite yet. we have 2 important messages to share. First, remember to like this episode, drop us a comment, and if you haven't done it yet, follow this show or subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can reach us on social media. You can also email share@socialleopards.com to contact us privately. All links are in the show notes. We love and appreciate hearing from those who listen to the show.
Second, we want you to know that this show is not intended to be a replacement for professional therapy. If you are struggling or if you need to interact with another person, check out the show notes for resources. Thanks for listening.